Hi, it's me, Vera. Welcome back to Kapao Dal, where we talk about mental well-being. With our guest, Sanju Amonte Sachamani Wongse.
It's actually Satyamuni Wong without a say.
You don't say. So as Suvira and I started out this episode, we thought, we'd try to get a lot of good discussions going on with Sanju and perhaps have a 30 minutes episode coming out of it. But looking at our whole interview so far, I think we might have to split this up. Continuing from our previous episode, parents are happily married, they have kids. Sometime down the line, they're not happy together anymore. And they think that maybe separation is best. But they don't separate because they have a family. They're afraid that if they split up, they'll be viewed negatively in society. And the children will have troubles finding a good partner. So, although they might legally divorce, they are still together in the eyes of the world, living in the same house, unhappily, for the sake of the kids. I imagine this happens to a lot of families as well within our community. What would you say to something like that? How should they process it?
I think it is important to understand that you can keep it within the family. But keeping within the family doesn't mean that everyone needs to keep it under the rug. But keeping it in the family means that family also needs to work together to process all of that emotions. And if you cannot come together as a family to process those emotions, then you need a mediator. And the best mediator for you could be a counseling psychologist, a family counselor, or a psychiatrist. So if the family is going through this, then sure, you don't want to be talk of the town. That's fine. Understandable. You don't want the community to know about it. Understandable. But it also means that you do not just be like, we're not going to ever talk about it. Because at the end of the day, in the community, it's just not your mom, your dad, but it's also the kids. It's also the grandparents and so on that is within that family member. So it's important that within that family structure, you need to learn to work together, work through the emotions together, because you cannot just be selfish and like, I'm just not going to talk about it, because then other people might not be able to process the emotions that you're processing.
Sanju, I do not like your point of view. I was hoping you would say that, hey, some things should be out in the open and not be ashamed of. Right. But okay, I guess when it comes to, let's say someone in the family is having some mental health challenges, maybe not talking it outside the family makes sense because it is a very personal thing.
I think it's where what I'm trying to say is that you want to make it public, you make it public. You don't want to make it public, it's understandable. But at the same time, by not making it public, it also doesn't mean that you don't work on it.
Right. As long as there are steps being taken to let's solve for this together as a family unit, that's good.
Yep.
But if parents are getting divorced, they should tell people because a 16-year-old kid should not be asked to keep this a secret.
Yeah.
I think that messed me up for life.
I'm so sorry to hear that, man. I really am.
How would publicizing that have changed things for you, though? How would it have changed things for your parents and also other people in your family? Because I think what Sanju's trying to say is that other people will be affected by your decisions to do things like announcing certain things to the world, and mental well-being or mental health and understanding these things is more than just about you, but also the impact that it might have on other people. If your parents wanted you to keep it a secret and you decided, or they decided to announce it to the world, it would then, in a community as tight-knit as ours, have an impact on inevitably your cousins, your grandparents, or whoever else that you're close to. And it's important to also then be sensitive towards them. Not discounting the fact that you need to work on this issue, but blanketly say everything should always be out into the open isn't necessarily a healthy way of dealing with things either.
I agree, but in my particular case, it's only about divorce. And my point right now that I'm just coming to process and think about this is if you're going to get divorced, then be
Proud of it.
courageous about it. Like, why are you being shy? Like, you want to split up, and then we can deal with it together. But not telling me as a 16-year-old kid that, hey, your parents are divorced, but we're going to live together and act like everything's normal to the outside world,
Yeah.
although we're not going to talk for the next few years.
That-
And you'll be the mediator and you'll have to deal with this shit.
That's the point, right? Where that was the family did not work together through that. They
Yeah.
just threw a bomb that we're splitting up, but no one can know about this. And so we're going to live a double life, and you have to live this double life as well.
Without any
Right.
way to process.
So it's where the family did not come and process together and set the ground rules that, okay, this is how it's going to happen, and how are we going to make it okay for everyone, and how are we going to work together through all the information, all the questions that you might be having. And I think that process did not take place. And when that process did not take place, it could lead to resentment, and it could lead to a lot of stress as well, because you cannot fully just break free and be yourself and share of what's going on. And that's the key, that if you are as a family unit and you either the family dynamic changes or anything happens, then you really need to work together as a team to move forward together and not just be like, okay, this is a dictator, so we say this and it's done.
So I guess that touches on what you were talking about earlier, which is basically to understand where someone else comes from and to be truly empathetic towards them. And with this, both the parents and the kid have to be empathetic towards each other's needs. And then you can try to process these things together as a unit, as opposed to maybe throwing you into the deep end and being like, this is what we're doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's not happy with the answer. Oh
I
no,
am
man. Let
not.
me say the other. No, you should just go to Masala magazine and say this out loud.
Message to parents out there. Be courageous.
Yeah.
If you're going to divorce, fucking own it.
But I think that's also the key, right? I think that's also an issue in many ways because we are very sensitive about our public image in so many ways, right? So even look at how we project our social media accounts and whatnot, right? We constantly live a double life on a daily basis anyway. So we are someone projects something else to the world while we could be broken inside. And we do that on a daily basis. When we go to Facebook, we are someone. When we go to Instagram, we are someone. When we go to TikTok, we are someone. And when we are in front of our friends, we are someone else. So we are constantly not being true to ourselves as well, unless you can come and say that, hey, everywhere that I talk, I'm still the same person. So it comes in a way where we are constantly living that different personality on different areas as well.
That is so true. With that, thank you so much for listening to today's episode and dial in our next episode.